what the hell are we
Gonna
gonna
do
do?
now? What the hell we gonna do now?
Just when I thought we had a motherfucking chance.
Oh, well.
Goop the hell out of me, sister.
Child.
Oh, well, here we are. We have a new president-elect.
Mm-hmm.
47th president, Mr. Orange, aka Donald Trump again.
There's a demon in the house.
It is a demon. Just when I
demon?
thought my 30s wasn't going to be horrible, I realized we're living in a shitty ass world. The U.S. specifically.
Derwin King has been working on his plan for 8. Okay, that's a little long.
Yeah, you're
5
reaching.
years, for about 5 years. So we'll see.
We'll see where you go, girly. We said
I'm closer to the end of this country than I've ever been. So my escape plan is nigh. Let's just say that.
Okay. Well, I need to have an escape plan, but for the time being, I'm taking it day by day.
I keep thinking like y'all are right there, and like I don't know how comfortable. Well, I remember being close to the White House during the first Trump administration.
Yeah, you were here, bitch. Don't think
My
you
most
weren't.
miserable days. I swear to you, I've never been more miserable than from 2017 to 2021. That's not even like I thought like it was me, and now I kind of realize it was mostly the climate, like where like what was happening, what the norm of our country was, because ever since I moved here, which was at the beginning of the Biden administration, I've been healthy. And sure, maybe those could be coincidences, but
Is it a coincidence? Is it?
You tell me. Is
You
it
tell
a
me.
coincidence?
I get it, girl. I've only been here. Well, I've been here through Biden and Trump's administration, and for me, Trump wasn't everything Trump tried to do. Nobody like approved it, to my knowledge. Y'all quote me and beat me up. You know his processes for things, and the things that he did get, like eventually Biden had to recover from, and then all of the shit with So it's very funny now. I feel like him being here, girl. But you also know he's never here. He's always in Florida.
That's where he lived. Ew.
That's where he's like. Each like president, I believe, has like an area. Like Trump.
I don't like talking about him.
Well, this is this week's episode, sister. What is up, everybody? It is your boy, Lord Devery.
And I'm Derwin King.
And welcome back to another episode of That Black Boy Joy, where we create, maintain, and hold space for Black and brown boys to be themselves and
so much more.
We are back. And as you all have heard from our intro, we will be talking about the aftermath of navigating the 2024 election and all of the shenanigans that will or may be coming forth with all of the period coming forth with this new president-elect. Girl, it was a journey to get here. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Oh my God, not the salutation. The end is nigh.
The end is nigh. We fought a good fight. Oh, the river we have rode. I don't know. Something battle platoon music. I did not expect this. In the Titanic when they had the band playing before we died. Just go get your fucking violin out, girl. That's what it's giving right now, girl.
Damn, yo.
We need to leave. Yeah, it's been interesting over here in the DMV these past couple of days.
The empire is falling, but it was falling before, so it's just falling faster.
Yeah, it's falling faster, and people are starting to realize no matter how much power you have, or how much maybe white men will always reign superior in whatever they. These girls said, "I'm still here."
What?
Here.
What?
Here.
Whoa. One thing about white supremacy, my dears, it is crafty and it is resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And it just simmers in the shadows.
Yeah.
Until it gets until the climate is just right. And then when the climate is just right, and your harbinger, Donald Trump, brought it with him, then they emerge from the shadows and they reveal themselves and they say, "Gotcha, niggers."
Right, with the ER. Hard ER. I was honestly, what just happened? Y'all, like I was gooped. I think I was only gooped by the like turnout. Okay. I think that's what I was surprised about.
Whatever you were shocked by is your reaction. I will not judge anybody for what they were shocked by. I was not. But I will not judge people for how they approached this election. So
Yeah.
whatever surprised you is how you felt. Period.
I think for me, I think I was only surprised by how close it wasn't. Just, I think for me to see that around 20 million people did not vote compared to the last election was something that gagged me, and the fact that like around 81 individuals voted for Biden in 2020, and then only around like 60 something voted for Kamala
Yeah.
was like a huge drastic stark in comparison to me, because as everybody knows, we're going to talk about it probably a little bit in this episode, was people were very skeptical about Biden as our president, and the fact that he had that many people vote for him and elect him versus someone that I think people were slightly more confident on or interested in. So I seen on my, feed, which could have been biased because I'm not about to be following anybody that's Republican as fuck. It just kind of shocked me how it didn't get that momentum that it was giving. I feel like I was so disillusioned in all of it. So
I think a lot of people are actually.
yeah. I
I think my disillusionment really came around in 2020, during when there were all those Democrats running in the primaries.
Because we had Elizabeth
Warren.
Warren, yeah, and then we had Kamala was right somewhere in the
Yes, we
midst of it.
did. We
Yeah,
had Cory Booker and we
yeah,
had Bernie Sanders running again.
yeah.
And I remember thinking, wow, here is our opportunity to pull this country in a different direction after post-Trump administration. And I also remember hearing people say, those people are not going to win. Biden's the strongest candidate. And I was like, you guys realize, however, that like Biden will be, for me at least, the closest candidate to being Republican at that point, right?
Yes.
That would move the party, because these other candidates were so interested. They were so far left and doing a really good job of matching the super right energy that was coming, right? And
Mm-hmm.
mathematically, for me, or just balance wise, I'm thinking if you have the right pulling so far in that direction, so far conservatively, why would you continue easing
To
closer to
play the
them?
middle.
Yeah, because that middle isn't just going to stay there. It's going to keep kind of urging further and further right. And that's kind of once he had won, right? And then I was like, okay, so status quo is absolutely the most important thing to the large majority of Democrat voters right now. That's what my thought was in 2020. I realized that any hope we had of making any real recovery from the Trump administration was kind of dead.
Mm,
And that
yeah.
isn't to disqualify the things that the Biden administration did do, but I felt like it really put this next Trump administration in the making. It was
Mm-hmm.
like setting the tone for not really pushing hard enough against the Republican Party and really kind of acquiescing. So it we're now playing in their field. We have been playing in the Republican field for the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, because they
We've
keep,
been
yeah.
playing in conservative land for a long time. You just look at the laws that have changed. I live in the South. I live in Louisiana. So some of the laws that have passed here have been highly conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking like, damn, this is during like the Biden administration. The local politics have been working in that Republican interest,
Yeah.
the state politics at least, and that's just true for the South in general. But that's just my belief, is that the DNC has acquiesced and has made way too many concessions to meet that sort of like that middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
That at this point they're only slightly different in my eyes, from the Republican Party, and that's how we got here.
Yeah. I think what I was taking from, so I wasn't as interested in like the political space prior to me working at the Congressional Black Caucus
Yeah.
Foundation. So like that was in 2022 was when I started to really, which is kind of relatively new, when I really started to lean into the impact of voting and voting at all levels, like Congress, government, like all of those things I didn't understand besides just the presidential election. So I think for me, I started to really get into like the who shapes our lives in this regard and like the backgrounds or like the impact of the candidates for real. So I think for me, like I realized that like the the Democratic caucus, I mean, not the Democratic caucus, like the Democratic Party, we're very unique because our center is like being diverse,
Yeah.
being very wanting to be welcoming of all.
Yes.
Whereas with the Republicans, they are very much based in white supremacy.
Yes.
So we have a challenge upon ourselves because we are trying to hit everybody in every space. However, we are very diverse. We are very individualistic. We are very much, this is what I need. If you can't give me this, then I have a problem, which is something that I realize is at play in this conversation because at the end of the day, there's one thing that is driving the GOP/Republican Party is
And what is that?
white supremacy,
Okay.
all of that in the space. And with us, it is what can you do as our president, as a Democrat, that is going to be specific to me and only me. And if it's not specific to me and only me, then I am a little bit of reserved to buy into you as my candidate, my president elect.
This just opened up so many doors for me in my brain because I remember thinking in the shower the issue is that we have a two-party system, but what that just because the Democratic Party can't possibly meet the needs of everyone who it encompasses. But this is the issue here. Now we're back to the issue at hand, is that you have white supremacy against everyone else.
Yes.
And what that says to me and what it should say to every other American voter is this is a reminder. And if you're thinking about critical race theory and all of what's happened in the last 5 years, is the reminder that white supremacy is built into the bones and infrastructure and guts of this country. We cannot
Regardless.
continue pretending. We cannot continue acting like this isn't who we are. It is frustrating for anyone who is relatively conscious to be maneuvering in a society that erases this, a society that is adamant about teaching this because it would then show you that this is a losing game.
Yeah.
That going against white supremacy, I mean, this is the reason that there are Black Republican voters, because they realize that
And
when it
Latino.
comes to, yes, thank you. Because they realize that white supremacy isn't just a machine. It is the baseline of this country. We have a dream about making America this melting pot. And it is that. Just like foundationally, that is what it is. However, it is a melting pot with a broth made of white supremacy.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, all of these different identities and cultures live here, but the broth is white supremacy, and it always has been. White people are not interested in losing that, and you can talk to whomever. The most loving white person is not going to want to give up their power. I think I might have said this on the show before, but if you had power, you wouldn't want to give it up.
No. So that's the thing that is happening is with the Republican Party, what they're articulating and what they're wanting to do is they know that that white people will become the minority eventually, right? So what they're trying to do is either slow down or stop the process of them being the minority. So they are intentionally trying to put systems, which that's racism at its finest, in place to mitigate their erasure of being the majority. So if that means putting a convicted felon as their president elect to get the job done,
To
They
push
would
their
do that to
agenda.
push their agenda because they don't want to be the minority, which y'all don't want to be in control anymore. So you're trying to stop us, which we've never been in control. Our priorities are not to take over you all. Our priorities are to be at a level where we are equal to you all. That I think is my observation. And if listeners, have any thoughts and feedbacks, let me know. But I think when it comes to the white supremacy and the minorities, I don't never necessarily think that we're trying to be greater than or diminish them. I think we are trying to get to a space where we are respected enough to
You
be.
you mean nigga? I mean, you mean black people?
Yes, I mean black people, but I'm also talking about like minorities. Like we live in our existence of trying to be white adjacent. Some people look to try to be white adjacent.
Well, we're not. We can't. There. The only thing that any of us have in common is that we're not white. And
Yes.
so I'm so like I'm
Yes.
telling you, this is true. This is true. I remember I'm in a thing at work, and they just like lumped this diversity thing for racial and cultural backgrounds, and I was like, well, the only thing we have in common is that we're not white.
Yeah.
That is true. That's what we need to. We can't talk around these things.
Yeah.
We're not white. So
Yeah.
what black people are doing is trying to come from under the legacy of slavery.
Yeah.
Anytime we're trying to advance, we're trying to overcome the legacy of slavery, which is embedded in the very way that most of us live our lives today,
Yeah.
in our relationship to whiteness and to the power structure. Period. Point blank. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Latin Americans are trying to start a new life in this country. Some of them are battling between preserving their cultures and assimilating, because what they want to do is have a successful life here, because they are migrants at the core. So they
Yeah.
have left the conditions of their home country to come here for a better life. But that is not the same thing that we as black people who have been bred in this country through the process of slavery. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the same thing. We're not doing the same things.
Yeah.
Our commonality is that we are people of color in this country, which just means that we are not white.
Yeah. I agree. I think what I also want to note and get into this conversation is the importance of the individual leader versus the systematic challenges. I think that I am curious about how if there's an importance or lack thereof of who we have as our president elect versus the systematic issues that will continue regardless of whoever's in power.
Mm-hmm,
Is something that
mm-hmm,
I'm
mm-hmm.
really curious about because I'm starting to see this pattern. This election made me realize that who we vote for, it really doesn't matter about what their background is or what they're willing to do. Is will you enact change? And what I realized was something that I think is a high priority for individuals in the US specifically is the economy, and then the Gaza, of course, what's happening, and with Palestine and
Correct.
Israel, and then other things are irrelevant, like abortion and things of that. And it's like, who are we leaning to get the job done, regardless of what that person is saying or what they're trying to um, demonstrate as an individual?
And economy was the high priority for
Yes.
this go around.
And Trump made individuals feel as though they would be um, they will benefit with him as president because he will change the economy, which if you were intellectually sound, you would
Okay.
know that he was not talking about the middle nor working class. He was talking about the 1%.
Yeah, he was certainly not looking at the
So
interest of
he
the people on
was
the
on the
ground.
ground. And I think people have to get over this fact that he gave us a fucking stimulus check
Oh my
that
God, during a
that
pandemic, we can't be talking about things that were happening when we were literally bound to our homes.
bound to our
We were
homes.
home bound.
Bound. And I think that's the thing that is
But of course,
baffling
that
me.
wouldn't matter to somebody who never stayed in the house in the first damn place.
Yeah, or niggas that weren't educated. And not even niggas. I'm talking about because the thing about it is black people showed up.
Motherfuckers.
Motherfuckers. Black people showed up and did what we had to do. Okay? Looking at what our statistics showed, we did what we could do. And I also have to want to tell people that we showed up to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
It gave us this realization that no matter how much we lean into these things, we try to show up for it, we will never have power. And I want to tell people that in the most honest way is y'all be thinking that black people will take over the world when we become one, or we don't have enough power, not even within our own community. We need the community of others to bring forth that, because again, we are what? A minority.
But
So
people are thinking if you cannot beat them,
join them.
okay. And so, I mean, we see this every day. We
Yeah.
see this in Devin, clamp my tongue on that one.
Yeah. But so do you think that there is an importance or a lack thereof of the individual presidential candidates versus the issues systematically that continue regardless of the person in power?
Yeah, no, I think that was a very valid point. I think
Okay.
that was a very valid point. I think oftentimes it really doesn't matter. Most of these candidates are like what figureheads. They're just like
Yeah. They're
talk
just
like they're
figureheads.
not.
They put
This
the
is
bills on the
yeah. Go ahead.
table. Well, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I feel like what they do is they put bills on tables, and then the Senate and Congress and all of those do the rest of the work.
Yeah, I mean you just have to recognize that we always have to ask ourselves what's happening in this country and who does it benefit.
Yeah.
And if you can ask yourself that question at any given time, then you understand who holds the power. Who
Yeah.
holds the power is always going to be who is benefiting. That's what you always have to know.
Yeah.
This is applicable to your general world, your universe, and any room you're in. Who do these conditions benefit?
Yeah.
They're likely the people who have the power. And if we're in this space now where white supremacy is reigning supreme, then you can understand that at the legislative level, at the power structure level, are people who are interested in maintaining white supremacy
Mm-hmm.
or re-establishing it if there has been any power lost.
Yeah.
And any sort of acquiescing or accommodations that they've made in the last 5 years has been about getting your money.
Yeah.
If there's any truth, it hasn't been about like any real interest in you having power or anything of that nature. It has been about doing things to make sure that you put your money in their pockets. So,
And I think that's the thing that I also was interested in is if you read what Trump was trying to do also with Project 2025, there was a specific obvious demographic that had money being put in their pockets that was
tell me
not,
about it.
again, it was not the working class and it wasn't the middle class. What I was getting from, again, the issues and policies and laws, he was trying to put the minority party, minorities at an extreme disadvantage to where inflation is still going to be a thing where, I mean, not more inflation, like taxes are going to be still high for us. The, abortions, our women's rights are going to be removed from them. Also in regards to
Yikes.
like the removal of the Department of Education.
That's the one that should concern people more than anything else. And I mean that isn't to undermine women's rights, but that people don't realize, and this makes me sad because I know so many people who don't value education at the structural level. If you don't have it, right, you're never going to really be able to equip yourself with the information to know when you're being taken advantage of, to know how you're being taken advantage of. And if ever there were a reason for you to believe that you were going to be back in any form of slavery, which really looks like prison or working at one of these factory corporations,
Mm-hmm.
that's what it will look like in
Yeah.
today's time. It's not going to look like you on the fields, my baby. There's already people
No.
out there doing that work right now and
Yeah.
not being paid for it. You are going to be in a different form of slavery. That slavery will look very different than what you expect it to, and some of you are already there.
Yeah. I mean, it's also with women's rights. I mean, women's bodies being policed by not themselves. Also with police officers getting 100% immunity. So that means being affected by that. Women's bodies are being affected by the abortion. Black people, specifically black men, are going to be black people, regardless of 100% immunity, we might start to see a higher rise in mortality with black and brown individuals when it becomes police and all of those things, LGBTQ plus rights, like the
Yeah.
marriages, and then also trans individuals. It's starting to be
Oh yeah, the trans people are going to
very,
get hit first, which makes me really
yeah,
sad.
housing.
I was just thinking about that police thing, though. I feel like people are going to think that the solution is putting people of color in the police force. They're going to think that more so.
Ooh.
I know
I
that's
think
not a solution.
that's not a solution because again what is going to happen is try to put us against one another because they're going to have that division divide of like the police white, I mean the police blacks, and then the individual black people, and then the individuals that are not police. That discrepancy and that discrimination, and like again try to get those Uncle Toms in that space of like he's we can't be racist. We have a black man as as a police officer or like head of this department, which is like, no, you are going to use this as a reason to like still take us out. Like really being intentional, and also like with our trans brothers and sisters and individuals like him specifically targeting their right to their body. Again, it's just like I've listened to one of his like, first things he was doing. It was like, we need to get back to the nuclear family. We need to get back to, having these things and not
My
these
thing was
chemicals and these poisons and these harms happening to these kids. And if anybody is doing it to putting these monsters in these kids, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking
I
about.
agree.
But I do want to get into this conversation of like the importance of like grassroots movements
Oh
and like
yes, yes.
mutual aid and community care networks during this time, because I do believe that while we do have this person as president, we do need to
Come on, this
lean into
person.
those grassroots movements, those individuals who are not going to stop doing the work. Like I know, shout out to our boss, our big mentor David Johns, who is not he was going to continue the fight, and it doesn't stop right here. And even with Kamala's, I think her, is it called concession? I think was it her speech, like when she was
Yeah, because
acknowledging.
you're conceding. Yeah.
Yeah, her concession speech was talking about like the fight is not over, the fight has just begun. Continue to connect with those essential tools for survival and progress beyond traditional electoral politics is something that we need to be mindful of. Like I think some people think that like once this person becomes president, then
That's
we
the end.
that's the end. But it again, the importance is at the congressional and like electoral and Senate level, and it does have to be like each state can pass laws and things to prohibit the laws affecting them. I know Maryland, shout out to Maryland, is really intact to be like, bitch, what y'all over there doing, we not about to let that happen over here. So like abortion is still something that is like,
I do miss the virtues of my home state. I love
yeah,
Maryland so much.
yeah,
Okay, so I have, I think, spoken ad nauseum on this platform about the importance of community, and mutual aid as a part of that. Recognizing who's a part of your community and then showing up for them in the ways that they need. I think that, I don't know if you've ever read Parable of the Sower,
yes,
but
yeah, yeah.
beautiful,
Dystopia, yeah, yeah, yeah.
that it's important that we keep in mind that sort of like being looking out for one another is important.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we'll be at, Parable of the Sower dystopia in the next year or 2 or 3, right? But what I am saying is that what is true and inevitable is that when you're
Mm-hmm.
in those difficult times, it is important that we start relying on each other and seeing, how we can be of support to one another during these most difficult times. This in every You're hearing it echoed across, people's platforms, that community is going to be vital to all of our survival now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the only thing that actually really does, beat out white supremacy is collectivism. That's why it hates it. That's
Yeah.
why part of this like white capitalist or this white supremacist, um, capitalism has been about reinforcing individuality,
Yeah.
making people feel isolated, making them feel like they have to do it all on their own, bringing down the purchases to the individual because that's how it thrives. But it is in the community that we will survive and that we will thrive and that we will beat it out. That is the only way. So we do have to then take care of one another. We have to be donating our time and resources and possibly money to grassroots, organizations, because they're actually with the people, assessing the needs. They see the everyday effects of those people, um, and then they are helping to meet those needs. And that work has been done. It's been being done, um, for as long as we've been breathing.
Yeah.
That work just isn't always publicized.
Yeah.
It's not a glamorous thing because even being in need isn't a glamorous thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna have to start paying a lot of attention now to, um, the leaders who are actually there, the leaders
Yeah.
who are actually walking with the people, sitting with them, talking with them, and really interested in meeting those needs. And if your leader isn't doing that and is more interested in being perceived, then that's not a person you should be following.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that we also need to highlight that we do have individuals that were first up in here. So, like, we have like Angela, also
Also,
Brooks.
Brooks.
Yes, we have Angela, Lisa Blunt Rochester, up in the building, like really trying to advocate. And then also we have a lot of firsts. I can't think off the top of my head right now. I need to look at the documentation that I have. But like first, we have like a trans woman in Congress, as well. I need to make sure I got all my information correct. But we need to like also lean into those like parties to help us like support those our communities, those grassroots movements, and then also just like really find a sense of liberation in all of this. I think that we need to be like aware of is like there we do still have a power and we still do have some say.
Baby, I got agency to the day that I die. If you know
Okay.
anything about me, I'm gonna go down motherfucking fighting. I know that I don't be like telling people like I will throw hands or nothing like that because
You
I'm
don't.
demure. You know, I am mindful.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, I do not prioritize anything over my freedom.
Yeah.
Period.
So
And my wellness.
yeah. So I wanted to say specifically with Sarah McBride, who made history as the first out trans person to be elected into Congress, where she won Delaware's only House seat after
Wow,
serving two
Delaware.
terms. Yes.
Shout out to
Yeah.
that.
Then we have two women, two black women, first time in history will serve in the Senate. We have Andy Kim, who made history as the first Korean American to be elected into the U.S. Senate. And we have Emily Randall and Julie Johnson made history as the first openly LGBTQ plus people to
Nice.
represent their states in Congress. And 7 out of 10 states approved ballot measures that will protect
Wow.
or enshrine abortion rights. And then Alaska and Missouri approved ballot measures that will raise the minimum wage and require employees to provide paid sick time for their workers. So we have to acknowledge those specific impacts that we've had during this interesting electoral, again, election, minus the presidential, how we have the congressional and Senate monumental moments that can slowly but surely start to move the needle in the direction that is more aligned for a country to be more free
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um, centralized in its rights for everyone and not a specific demographic or equitable a certain class.
Yeah, because I think that is becoming more important now too. Like I keep talking about white supremacy, but like that has embedded itself in our perceptions of class, which is inclusive of other races. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to make sure that I say that and that people hear that like white supremacy isn't just carried out by white people, that it
Mm-hmm.
is now embedded in our conceptions of class.
Yeah.
And so therefore you need to be looking at how people are carrying out and reinforcing white supremacy through their class actions.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's the thing is, like I said, it's slowly but surely we're going to have to band together, and we're going to have to come together as to have a common ground of what we need as a country for everyone instead of a specific, like I think that there's going to have to be a real intentional conversation of with our next presidential elect on the Democratic side. Because I will say, I think what, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, is what I think was a falter was that a lot of people did not support Biden's actions as president because there was inflation that happened during his election. I mean, during his presidency, which of course we need to acknowledge COVID, and then also the war in Gaza, and then also just being aware of that he had to also take on the aftermath of what Trump did as president,
Yeah.
and we kind of turned our back on our Democratic candidate, our Democratic president, which I kind of was like sad that like we showed up in that manner because it showed the Republicans that there was like a leak in our system.
Sure.
And I believe that Kamala did as best as she could with 107 days.
Yeah, I wanted to. I'm glad you said that because I realized we didn't give it enough time.
We
That
did
like,
not.
regardless of what any of my personal opinions are about Kamala Harris, she did tremendously for having just taken on this campaign in July. I
Mm-hmm.
will never forget being in DC and finding out that this was now going to be.
107 days.
So she did a lot with very little, and even to get as close as she did with such little time, like she just didn't have that much
Yeah.
time to build a campaign, which
Yeah.
frustrates me because now I'm like, I really feel like we should never have gotten to a point where Biden was running. I never thought that Biden should have run again.
Yeah.
And I hear you about us turning our backs on. He was never my candidate to begin with. I just want to be
Right.
very clear about that. There
Right.
was no point at which I wanted
Right.
Joe Biden to be our president,
Yeah.
let alone a
Yeah.
Democratic nominee.
Yeah.
So, he certainly, I certainly don't think he should have been the nominee for the second go around. I understand how it works when someone's already in
Yeah.
office and is running again, that they become the nominee for the party. But bitch, y'all knew that man was old and decrepit, and y'all knew it was time for him to get the fuck. Y'all knew
Yeah.
that. Y'all knew that. Y'all was holding on by a thread. And I think it's really interesting that the only time that Donald Trump has lost in the last three
Was to
elections.
two women. That's the craziest thing is y'all would rather have y'all first felon as president than y'all first woman.
I don't understand what y'all are missing. The most capable, brilliant, intelligent, and forward thinking people that I know are women. I don't.
Kamala has served on the legislative, judicial, and executive
Yes.
branches of government. This man has not served on any of them. Half of y'all don't even also know the three branches of government, so I gave y'all an answer. So that is the issue that I have was the most qualified person still did not win. And that to me goes into that conversation of the power of the vote or like the power of Black people's vote. We literally have to realize that like we are living in a system where like, we still can't be president. Like people would rather say we would rather have we want a woman to lead the most freest country in the world. No.
I don't understand. I don't want to follow behind men to begin with.
No.
I don't. I love, I am a man myself, okay? And intrinsically, I love us, especially
Yeah.
Black men. However, when it comes to who I am more ready to follow, who I've witnessed show up and show out in every aspect of my life, they've been women. I've never doubted that a woman could run this country. I have no reason to believe that they can't. And I think that
Yeah.
the belief that they can't is ignorant and ill informed. It's misinformed. And it just seems like a really like sad perspective to have as a voter that like you don't think that a woman could do it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Kamala been running this country for a while now.
Yeah. She can. I think that's the truth. And I think this particular election has made me think about how we can harness our power in the future for organizing as
Yes.
well too
Yes.
because I seen us come out in droves for a president that we really wanted to advocate for.
Yeah.
So now I think the next step is how do we get our community, our congressional representatives, our elected officials to also be a part of this movement to enact change, to really get individuals on board of like the importance of everybody being affected by Congress and not a specific demographic. And I think that we need to like really be aggressive with like pressuring like the legislative and judicial branch of government to block his efforts. Like I really think we need to like
be
really
more
be
involved
intentional
in
about
our
it.
local politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote like notes, so I'm over here like looking at my notes. Was like finding ways to be more active in our communities. Don't be arguing with these fools. You know.
I'm
Also,
not
I
gonna
want to
do
say
that.
shout out to I want to say Donnie Rose on social media, who I think Tank from Taking the Bangas. She posted these actions that we can take and use to move forth in this election is to remember that this country is larger than the scope of Trump's ego and its citizens carry many stories
Okay.
that his narrative of fear, mongering, and oppression. And then if
Mm-hmm.
you oppose what he stands for, you too are a critical piece of this country's narrative. In fact, generations that come before you that oppose the evils of this nation are the reason that America has not folded at once.
And it's really important for people to know. Was that the end of it?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's really important for people to know now is not the time for you to lose hope. Like,
No.
I didn't have a lot of faith during the election, despite that I cast my vote. I did vote for Kamala.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let that know now. I
Me,
have
we did.
lots of
We,
opinions.
that Black Boy Joy
With that black boy Joy voted for
voted
Kamala
for
Harris.
Kamala
Okay,
Harris. Okay.
let's be clear. Um, However, I didn't have a lot of faith at that time. I do have a lot of hope in our collective ability to
Mm-hmm.
make it to the other side of whatever is to come next. I don't. I know that white supremacy is that there's a lot of power behind it. I know that there are a
Yeah.
lot of people invested in the continuation of white supremacy, but I also know, first and foremost, because this is relevant to me in this platform, that the power of blackness
Mm-hmm.
is divine. Okay.
Yeah.
It is the most resilient. And
Yes.
look at where we are today compared to where we've been in this country. So I know we can do anything.
Yeah.
That matched with the power of the other cultures who benefit from defeating white supremacy. We've
Yeah.
got this. And we know this. We know that they know this because they've been doubling down on efforts to shut down anything that reminds us of our own power.
Yeah.
I've not lost hope because we will be back in a Donald Trump
Yeah.
administration. I have hope that now everyone will wake the fuck up because
Yeah.
I think the Biden administration put a lot of people to sleep. I think people
Yeah.
felt comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I think the benefit, there aren't many, but the benefit of us not being in a Harris administration now is that people have to face these
Yeah.
realities that they've been hiding from. People
Yeah.
have been hoping that they can continue to skate through this comfort of a democratic America, of a Democrat America, and that we would be able to maintain the status quo. But even with our Democrat presidents, that status quo has been diminishing. That middle class has been diminishing.
Mm-hmm.
The working class has been further pushed into poverty. These things have happened regardless of who has been president. We've been headed in that direction.
Yeah.
So it is important for us to wake up to the conditions we're living in today so that we can make informed decisions, so that we can actually participate in our local politics, so that we can
Yeah.
actually participate in community and assess what is really needed for ourselves, for our families, and our communities, and actually really then speak truth to power versus living under the trappings of comfort, of a false comfort that doesn't actually show us where we are.
Yeah. Thank you, sister. Looks like.
Yeah.
Come on, sister.
Yeah.
I think what we need to realize is joy as resistance. I think that we need to emphasize that joy and hope can be forms of resistance in this
Come on.
space and really encourage everyone from our listeners, individuals that's not listening, or just individuals that have been affected, to find small moments of joy and hope and connection, even in these challenging times. Because I think that what I've seen after this election is a lot of people's impact, a lot of people's mindset shifting into how do we come together
Yes.
in this type of space, which I
Yes.
was so proud of. And I think we need to acknowledge is that people showed up and verbally and physically showed their disheartened mindset about this person, but offered resources
Yeah.
and tools for us to, move forth in this election. I think that I did not see that when Trump became president at first. I think because we didn't know what he was capable of doing.
Sure.
And now we know what he's capable of doing. We have now a sense of community amongst one another where we are like, it is joy and it is hope in these spaces with us being resistant to what this man is trying to put forth. And we also have to acknowledge that there was things that he tried to put forth his first candidacy and his first presidency that we did not push through. So we need to do that again to make sure that this nigga's wasted his time. Okay. We also have to be mindful that he cannot run again. So we have to be aware. I don't know if he's trying to change that, but
you don't want to hear what I have to say about that.
I know. We about to wrap up, sis, but I do want to, direct our listeners to continue the engagement with resources, activist groups, and find ways to connect with us to share their thoughts about the election and beyond. We are individuals who are very, we are not like political baddies,
No,
but we are very much invested in our well being as Black and brown, Black and queer, Black, queer, and brown individuals, and we want
always.
to be intentional with our joys, which I would love to say is our people that listen is our joys that show up for us and lead forth with that. So if you have any things that you all would like to, share with us, we definitely would like to hear that
I love that.
um,
My
in
joys.
our
Hi, my
medias.
joys.
My
Uh,
joys. But before I wrap up, I do want to go and read a little bit of what Kamala's concession speech said
yeah.
before we close out.
Okay.
And I just want to take this part out and just read it to everyone. Is only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time. For the benefit of us, I hope that this is not the case. But America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a billion brilliant stars. So I want us to be very intentional. I want us to hold forth that it is not the time for us to give up. It is the time for us to fight and continue to go hard for what we believe in. And again, one day we will see the light on the other side that we've continuously created for ourselves, specifically for Black and brown individuals and queer individuals and minorities. We've always fought through all these adversities. We've always found a way to persevere and not give up. So please, please, please don't. I wanted to see if you had anything before we go into our
No, I've
space.
said everything that I want to say about this topic. We are in for a ride. I do think we are headed toward dark times, but that is more of a reason for us to find light wherever we can. I mean, I
Yes.
just do. I try to be an optimist, but I'm also very practical, and I think that we are. But we must then choose now to lean into our joy and to each other's joy, and then ultimately into each other.
Yes. Thank you, sister. Um, and I want us to give you all our socials, of course, like we always do, because we want to get again continue the conversation with you all. So if you would like to continue the conversation with me, you can hit me up on Instagram, Twitter, X, all of those things at underscore Lord Every. That is underscore LORD, which Twitter is starting to be iffy now. Not even iffy now. It's just, yeah. So hit me up on Instagram at underscore Lord Every. That is underscore LORDEVERY.
You guys know you can find me on Instagram and Threads at Derwin King. That's DERWINKING.
And if you all would like to continue the conversation with us on the podcast socials, you can hit us up at That Black Boy Joy on Instagram, Twitter, X. If you all would like to write in and be a guest on the show, you can hit us up at That Black Boy Joy podcast at gmail.com. Please make sure you all like, subscribe, comment, reach out to us. We love hearing from our joys and our individuals that support us. And like we always say at the end of our show, please be so
Be
in
so in love
love
with
with
who
who
you
you
are.
are.